Okay, welcome. Welcome to the webinar, The Airports of the Future. We've got some panelists today that are experts in some of the fields that you saw in our invitation. And we're going to be going down this list, passenger experience, some physical security, operational excellence. We'll be discussing those in basically a free-form panelist thing. So each of the panelists is an expert, more or less, in the main topics. So we'll be more or less batting around some of the issues that airports of the future face, and we will entertain some questions a little later in the webinar. So, gentlemen, could you, from left to right, could you introduce yourselves?
Hello, everybody. I'm Jihad Boueri. I'm the Vice President, Strategy and Transformation for CITA, covering the Middle East and Africa. I have been in this work around the airports for the last 40 years. So I went through most of the major airports in the Middle East, from greenfield airports to renovation of airports. And I'm happy to share my experience and the experience of my company, CITA, in this webinar.
Thank you, Jihad. Yann Guillemin from Amadeus. In the airport field, we have been less many decades than CITA, but in travel IT, we've been 35 years plus working with airlines, travel agencies, hotels, providing payment, airport, border control, the long list. I'm looking after Europe, Middle East, and Africa from a commercial perspective, sales, pre-sales, and customer success. And I'm actually today in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, at the To Rise event. So hopefully the sound is all good. Georgie, all yours.
Yes, and I'm Georgian Albantov, head of artificial intelligence at Danlex. We are based in Bulgaria, and we are a service provider for Smiths. And for the last 8 years, we have been doing predictive models with artificial intelligence that I'm happy to share our experience in that field.
Thank you. And I'm moderating the discussion today. Hopefully, be able to lead it in a productive direction. My name is Robert Stevenson. I'm a senior vice president with Gafari Associates. We basically design airports, and I'm based in Riyadh here. But actually, I'm in the U.S. So it's a little early for me. So kind of bear with me if I sort of wander around. Okay. So basically, the way we wanted to start, we'd go over some of our primary topics. And I think, Jihad, maybe you would like to speak on the passenger experience and the future of the passenger experience in airports.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to speak first about the future, because when we say future, what do we mean? What we are interested into details is what's going to happen maybe in the next 5 years, but we look forward, and all the technology is working on the long run. So I would divide the period into 3 horizons. The horizon 1, which is next 5 years from now till 2030, horizon 2 from 2030 to 2040, and horizon 3, 2040 to 2050. Why we go to 2050? Because 2050 is an important milestone set by IATA to achieve the net zero emission, and everybody is working in this direction. So because we are going to emphasize on the first horizon, let me scan directly the others quickly. What we see in the last horizon between 2040 and 2050, what we call it the net zero invisible journey, where travel achieved net zero emissions. This is a target we reach, we don't debatable. But what we are sure of is that the emission will be by far much lower, and the travel will become virtually invisible. So it will be so smooth by that time that we call it the invisible journey or invisible travel. 10 years before, from 2030 to 2040, we see it like the period where the interoperability will be the topic. So it will be interoperable ecosystem. Travel services and systems will connect, share data seamlessly, sea, land, air, all way of travel. You speak about travel. That's why we speak about future of airports, but in fact, we better speak about future of travel, because the travel will be beyond airports. starting from the years to come. And the period where the Horizon 1, which is now, it's mainly about seamless. It's seamless by default, where travel experience becomes seamless and intuitive for all the people. So that's why we started maybe by speaking about the passenger experience and the seamless travel. And speaking about seamless travel, this is where really you, we call it the walk-through airport. The airport where you walk, like if you are going through a shopping mall. So passenger will go from his house to his destination, no queue, no contact, no hassle. It's just walking. You just walk and the technology does everything behind in the background, whether for immigration, for security, for all the airlines operation check-in, for your baggage. All the process we go through today will be done in the background if you want to make a big picture of it. And all what we have to do is to make this flow. Now, technology will play a major role in this.
Yeah.
And of course, number one is biometric, because our face becomes our passport, our face becomes our boarding pass, and we are recognized directly as soon as we go through this process. It started, we can see it today at the airports. It's not science fiction, it's not only future. We see it today. It is not till today a walkthrough, but it is going to happen. We started to see a lot of examples, for example, being tried by, let's say, Dubai Emirates, what we call the corridor, the security corridor. So same thing is going to happen in Qatar on the gates. Abu Dhabi is going to launch another trial like this. The corridor is where the camera will capture more than one person at a time, and you just walk. You don't stand in front of the gate to open. The gate is normally open. The gate will close only by exception to guide you through a special. So this is mainly the seamless passenger journey based on biometric, and we call it the walkthrough. And this is where we see the future, and it is happening today.
Well,
I think maybe Jan can elaborate more on this as well.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe Jan, if you wanted to speak a little bit about
Yeah,
the seamless journey and the stakeholder, basically the stakeholder cooperation that's required to do this.
No, absolutely. But I think Jihad made a very good intro by actually stepping back for a second. We talk about the airport of the future, but this is very much the travel of the future, because the airport of the future requires also the airline of the future, the governor of the future, border control authority of the future, etc., etc. And so technology is going to enable these new design, but also change the way that we collaborate. So I think we'll come back and on this theme a little bit later. And maybe one more thing that I just wanted to add, Jihad, also is, and I was with, it's not mine, so I need to give back the credit to Paul Griffith. I was with Paul from Dubai this morning, and he was saying, we want to build intimacy at scale. Intimacy of, decades ago when travel was something special, where the hospitality, where the human touch was something special. But of course, into the scale of today and tomorrow. And so this is where the technology, of course, makes it everything in the background that we can do so that the human touch can be in the foreground. So I wanted just to add this because I think it was a very good intro. And even on this concept of time, I don't know whether we'll have time to discuss it, literally. But there are even some nice specificities. So of course, when we talk about the future of the airport, the future of the airline, airlines moving to offer order delivery of the future, no more boarding pass, no more check-in window, etc. Behind that, from an experience of the traveler, from a collection in between stakeholders, we can already start bringing things already today. And so, for instance, we are working with ground handlers so that we take them away from the desk that they usually sit behind, in front of the desk as a host to the traveler. And this is already possible. We started this year in France, actually, but we have the right solutions to allow them to go from behind the desk and meet the passenger directly in the terminal. Now, Do you want to pause here? I mean, I can go then further in passenger experience, but I thought that this future of travel was worth a little bit of a full picture.
Yeah.
I'll give it title is when the traveler becomes a customer. And this is also what Orgulfus is saying. They speak about the customer of the airport
A guest,
more than a traveler,
even, I would say,
or a guest.
Yeah, the guest and the customer experience. As things have moved, and we'll be touching on the how AI is affecting, all of these systems and solutions. I mean, do we want to speak a little bit about physical security? I mean, basically, we're more or less touching on it as we're doing our walk through the airport.
So I think the biometric aspects. So there are in security. I think there are different aspects to it. There is the identification part, and here biometrics can bring a level of security, a level of matching, which is greater than what human beings can do. And so the seamless passenger journey through the airport, whether it is at one touch point, border control, boarding, check-in, whatever, or end-to-end, which Jihad was describing, and that is starting to become reality. I hope we have time to discuss about Dubai, just next door, which is a wonderful example where you have this end-to-end biometrics enablement from check-in, boarding, border control, etc. But so from a security perspective, biometrics is clearly giving an edge. The second edge is, of course, on the passenger experience. The seamless breathing through the airport with your hands in the pocket, no need to even pull your passport or a boarding pass, which has implications in terms of, dwell time on the non-aeronautical part of the airport, so impact on the revenue, impact on how you actually configure your terminal, you use your resources more cleverly in order to indeed have the scalability, the millions of packs that we need to add to tackle with the growth.
Mm-hmm. And let me
then the other side of security is of course the bags. Touch on it, Jihad.
No, go ahead, continue.
No, the security. No, that was the second side, but this is not a part that Amadeus does. The bags of security.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, before we leave this particular subject, how would the panelists like to address, as we started to mention earlier, the cooperation required across all the stakeholders? I mean, we have the airlines, we have the airport operator, we've got the baggage handling systems and things like that are often a third party. We'd like to talk about that a little bit.
Before we jump into this, Robert, just one point about the walkthrough, because whatever we do, we have what you mentioned as physical security is our pain point. So where you still have your handbag, you still have to be scanned yourself. And the biometric will facilitate everything. But when you touch these points, which is mainly police, we have an issue here. And technology-wise, when we spoke about the walkthrough corridor, we look forward that this walkthrough corridor with intelligent cameras all around and the X-ray are built in the walls of this corridor. You just walk with your bag. The camera will distinguish your body from your bag, and the X-ray will be directed to your bags. So you just walk, and you are being scanned as long as you walk. This is trial. This is not available today, but it's in the vision. Maybe Paul spoke about it in Emirates as well. And this is because this is the pain point at airports today. Yeah. This is where you reach this stage, you say, oh, I did all this facilitation, then I have to remove my notebook, remove my bag, and this hopefully through this security corridor will be sorted out.
Yeah, that is for most of us. Okay. So before we can move on to another subject, one of them is operational excellence of the airports. And this basically speaks to the technology and the equipment. Georgie, do you want to talk about this for a little bit?
Yes, thanks, Robert. Resource management at airports is a very big topic, as we know, starting from queue management to maintenance of different mobile machines. And what we focus at Danlex is the maintenance of the X-ray systems for the last, as I mentioned, 8 years already. And this is from experience. I can speak. This is where we see the benefit of AI for airports, at least one side. So we have to speak about like tangible outcomes from AI. We know now there is a big hype. AI is ubiquitous, but to use it for what? And we started basically before the hype with classical machine learning and artificial intelligence tools. And what we saw as an opportunity that we now implement in Austria, Bulgaria, and North Macedonia is to, first of all, to do real-time monitoring on the X-ray system so that the service technicians always have at hand what is going on with a lot of sensors, IoT devices, and log files from the systems. And then behind that, we have built custom models for trend deterioration, for anomaly detection, and to predict a useful lifetime. And it may sound a little bit strange, but the end result of that, that AI hopefully will achieve, is to reduce downtime of the assets, better maintenance, mean time to repair is lower, and basically a higher availability. So when you speak about the future, the thing you don't want to have is like the X-ray system not to work, and you have to go to other gates, etc., etc. So one of the small elements of this picture is this predictive maintenance of X-ray systems that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. So Jihad and had mentioned earlier, the potential to, as you're going down the corridor, be scanned. I mean, as an X-ray, as X-ray expert, I mean, how far away is things like this? Do you really think that's something we're going to see in our, as Jihad called, short-term future?
I think that's a dream for a long time. I can say my like personal opinion as an expert in predictive maintenance. Is that I see as a first iteration, maybe two corridors, one side by side, one for the luggage, one for the travelers. Then you really put your luggage, but you walk as your normal pace. And at the end of the tunnel, you just get it from the other tunnel, and you're done. Just because humans have to be X-rayed in a very low dose compared to the luggage. So these two, I think, will be separated for a long time. Plus, the range is very, very interesting. The system that we see now, the X-ray scanners, they have a very short range. As you see, it's less than a meter. So the penetration is very big. If you want to have such a penetration, by the way, if you walk through a big corridor, you need very high voltage systems, but they are detrimental to the health of the humans. So I think eventually there will be two lines.
Yeah.
But still, the speed has to be the same. The speed has to be the same.
Yeah.
It's a dream. Everything starts with a dream, But it's a vision. It's a vision. We don't know when it will happen, but in fact, everything starts with a vision, with a dream.
Yeah. And you could see this happening. I mean, you could see, of course, the passenger, doing the seamless walkthrough as Jihad and Jan were describing, and then maybe, as Georgie says, you just drop your bag, on a conveyor, and then when maybe as you get closer to your gate, you just pick it up and you keep going. I mean, the idea is to make airport travel, airline travel, as seamless and painless as possible. The amount of airline travelers has grown. I mean, prior to COVID, it was blowing up. We had a little respite there, and now it's huge again. So this is really turning into an issue, especially people like myself being based in Riyadh and then coming back and forth to the U.S. this is a painful thing, to have these constant security checks. But it is what it is. So how does, we want to talk a little bit about AI as Georgie mentioned. How is AI playing into the passenger experience and some of the other security issues that we talked about earlier?
If you would like me to pick up,
Please.
So AI for computer vision, it's already implemented. So for seamless travel, I mean, we do have the gates that recognize faces. Biometrics will also stay. We can't rely only on computer vision for that. AI and mathematics is extremely applied in the area of queuing theory. So this just tells us how many luggage checking points have to be open at a time, so that we have a certain percentage of queues reduced. So you can't open everything, but you can open anything. Also, this is connected to the X-ray systems as well. I mean, you can go through 5 or 15 at a time. So somehow in the background, mathematics and AI is working to make this journey seamless. Even now, when airports are designed, you use different reinforcement learning algorithms in order to plan how the traffic of the passengers and the way congestions occur can be mitigated, and so on. So even how long or how wide are the stairs is also AI mathematics behind it. So basically, the AI, when you don't see it, it works.
Yeah. Well, as an airport designer, as you mentioned, we're very conscious of those pinch points, as we call them, and the difference between what we say in the design field, the clean and dirty side of the airport, which is really the secured passengers and the unsecured passengers. So, I mean, so speaking of this, Jihad, SITA has a strong presence in the Middle East. Do you see the Gulf region and the Middle East as being kind of a test bed for some of this technology?
I better use the pilot if you want. Absolutely. Yeah. The Middle East is rapidly becoming one of the world's most exciting pilots. Not to use test bed, some people do not like it, for the next generation airport technologies. And there is a reason for that. First, the region has a very clear and ambitious vision. We cannot speak about the future without mentioning Saudi Vision 2030, without mentioning Dubai D33, without mentioning Qatar National Vision. So these big hubs in the region, they have really a very, very promising vision, and prioritizing aviation, because aviation is in the middle of it, and smart infrastructure as a national pillar. That creates the perfect, if you want, the perfect policy, the perfect investment environment for innovation in the air transport field. Second interesting thing in the Gulf, in the Middle East, that many of these airports are being built from scratch. They are greenfield airport. Mm-hmm. And this is a big advantage. When you are building something from scratch, you can implement the latest technology. You don't have the issue of integration with legacy existing systems. And this is one of the big issues or obstacles that existing big airports in the world are facing. For example, in Saudi, you have NEOM, you have DWC in Dubai coming, you have King Salman International Airports, very big projects in the region, greenfield. And there is a big appetite in the Middle East for experimentation. They are open to try fast, fail fast. They are open to innovation. You go to them, they partner with you, they want to try something new. Airports are among the first to deploy biometric boarding, for example, data orchestration platform, all these intelligent things using AI, they are the first to do it. And don't forget the geographical position of the region between East and West, and they want to play a major hub. They are launching very, very promising, very aggressive plans for the future. So yes, the Middle East is not just adopting innovation, it's shaping what the global airport of the future will look like.
But Jan, what are your thoughts on that? You know, being a the challenges and the what would be the right word? You know, the opportunities here in the Gulf region, and some maybe the challenges we have here in the Gulf.
No, I think I'm going to echo Jihad's good words here again, because I would probably add one more element which gives us an edge in the Gulf. Clearly, you design with the technology that you have at hand or in near regional, whether it's a project or ambitious modernization project. This is where technology is giving them this kind of 10 years future-proofing opportunity, and of course, huge capitals in the back. The one dimension that I would add is also probably, again, the better alignment in the end, whether it is in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, and so on, of the different stakeholders to make it happen. The airline, the ground handler, the airport, and there are many, many examples. If I stay in Qatar, for instance, to give you something which has nothing to do with passenger experience, but much more the kind of, almost dirty, very operational baggage handling parts. In between the NAS ground handler and Qatar Airways and the Qatar airport, we've created, from a technology perspective, something fairly simple, but which required an in-depth and complete redefinition of their processes, of how these guys work together. Mm-hmm. In the end, they all belong to the Qatar CIO and CEO, and that helps a lot in terms of alignment. And examples like that, we have many. I was mentioning Dubai before, but in the case of Dubai, you have Emirates, which has our biometrics check-in, boarding gates, leveraging the biometric digital identities from the BioHub from GDRFA, so the border police. So that's the same digital identity which is being used. And the airport is the one which is actually deploying our self-service kiosks, backdrops, and so on, also running the same biometrics. So again, a triple alignment required, which in these countries, I have to say, is easier to find. Ultimately, you just need to escalate to somebody, one unique person, rather than in Europe or in Heathrow with BA, I don't know, in Aéroport de Paris with Air France, in Schiphol with KLM. Mm-hmm. Finding this alignment is complex. It's more complex.
So, speaking of stakeholder alignment, then, I mean, like Georgie, you're a little more back of house type stuff, as we call it. How does those systems play into this? Are they going to have to be part of this entire stakeholder interaction? And what is AI going to be the thing that helps us put this together?
AI, yeah, it's definitely on the plate, and one of the things maybe I would like to mention here is that AI will change operationally how we work. It's not only going to help and facilitate, but also change even our agreements between airports and outside companies. Like we didn't envisage this in the beginning, but just from our experience to tell you, we had service level agreements that are based on prices that there is maintenance every 6 months, and then we have to change some parts, and then the airport pays for these parts. This is the service level agreement. Now the service level agreements are much more involved, and the change here is that they are now based on performance. So if availability is so and so and so KPIs, then there is some kind of payment. So you can imagine now that you can even have green contracts for 10 years for fixed prices, and then it is up to the service provider to make sure that the systems are up to date. So it's not that the airport has to pay every 6 months a certain fixed fee. So this you can do because AI has predictive ability. So if it can predict not really the future, but it can predict the risk of something of the future, and then you can price this risk. And this changes the whole operational model and the way we manage even the contracts between AI providers and airports.
Okay. So like we're speaking back of house, when you're doing like A and B checks, you know, some of these contractors were typically independent operators of the MROs. I mean, they would maybe be more of a performance-based contract rather than like
Exactly.
you had said. Yeah.
Performance-based, yes.
Okay, I mean, and that plays into the KPIs we were mentioning earlier. Now, we've seen a couple of questions pop up, and because of the, you know, we're talking a lot about AI and who isn't hearing about it all the time. Who owns this data anyway?
The data is always belongs to the airport. So it's not the service provider, it's not a regional manufacturer equipment provider. It is always to the airport. And here is it's a very good detail that when you do analysis of the data, log data, or data from IoT devices, like we have a so-called Dunlex box that is collecting some technical data. The data is belongs to the airport, and then the technicians they can access this data, and the models can access this data in order to make predictions. But this is strictly technical data related only to the operation of the equipment, and not personal data, not about operators, not about images. But this is a very good distinction, because some airports will prefer everything to be on premise, so that you install their AI servers with AI capabilities. They do all the possible AI engine work within the airport, or you can outsource this outside.
But the data basically is owned by the airport.
The data is owned by the airport, yes, but the people who operate the data and work with it, now I don't see, like in the near future, to be part of the airport, because the airport will not hire AI team of like 10 people for such cases. For each specific AI problem, they would have external providers that build such models and use them.
Okay, Jihad and Jan.
I need to add something on the issue of data. You know, one of the big challenges of AI, in addition to we say three main challenges. One of them is related to data. I see at the end of the question here, how will different stakeholders share the data? And I think this is the issue. AI without clean data, without big amount of clean data, will not be effective. And this is one of the major challenges, which is a collaboration across different stakeholders. Mm-hmm. You have airlines, you have airports, you have ground handlers, you have security, you have immigration, you have all these people. And putting all this data together is still today is a real challenge. What Jan mentioned about the Middle East it is a good point. It makes it easier. There is one decision, but if you go to other places of the world, it's very difficult. Yeah. And who owns the data? It depends what data. We cannot own, the airport cannot own the security data of the passenger, for example. There is a lot of things that, and you know, with the GDPR issue in Europe now and all these things worldwide, but in Europe is applicable. It is becoming an issue. This is a problem that AI needs this data, and at the same time, like Georgie mentioned, AI will help coordinating, will help assembling all these data in a place where they don't have to sit in one place, but you can use the whole data without having it all in one place. It doesn't have to be owned by one person, but it can be used by the whole ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, one of the viewers asked, what about a major airport disruption? I mean, we're going to be very data-driven on this. So what about disruption? What's going to happen?
Sorry, can I just squeeze in
yes, of course.
To complement something here? I think it's interesting. So we discussed about AI with different use cases, whether it is optimization, Gen AI, agentic AI. This question of data to feed AI is one aspect, but we just touched on it, and I wanted to give a particular concrete example of in the airport, the resource allocation is led by the airport management system, a very kind of old school system, rule-based so far, which then can have a layer of AI to, spice up the actual rules, but essentially get all of this data from a very old, stable database, which is quite literally called the airport operational database. And so creating such system means putting in place the database with a fixed list of connections, interfaces, etc., fixed rules, etc. Now, where AI is also very interesting is that we can trust AI to be fetching the data which is relevant at the same time. And so it's less about having the biggest AODB possible with the largest amount of predefined connections and interface, but more something which can evolve. And to your point about sharing data, especially at scale, you can share data which is anonymized in order to give maybe a trigger on a flight, on an anonymized passenger group, about the context, about a passenger, maybe a hotel, a hotel loyalty member who's traveling to a certain destination and we don't see any flight in their PNR. So there are some clever ways to actually manage the data in an anonymized way,
Yes.
in a grouped way, in order to give the insights, the triggers, which can then be used by the other actors. Sorry, I just wanted to squeeze this in.
No, that's fine.
I fully agree, but fully agree. And that's why the question about who owns the data, you don't need the person to own the data. The data every data will be owned by the people who will own it, and the AI you have to trust the AI, like Jan said exactly, to retrieve the data needed to take a decision without anyone having the data in one place or owning the data.
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of regional differences. I mean, when you're in the Schengen zone, we all know that once you're in Schengen and things, move around. And you come to the Middle East and the Gulf, they're sort of islands. In North America is the same way. How do we address that? Is there anything unique in going from different, I'm going to call it regions of the world in the way they view security?
I think interoperability is the basis for it. Huh? So there is a question of maturity of adoption of a certain technology. And so, for instance, the Dubai, for example, border crossing, purely based on biometrics. So no need to show nothing, not even a passport, which hopefully some of you have experienced, which is incredible, which allows to clear a whole immigration hole in a matter of 5 minutes. Incredible, especially if you go to the US, I'm sure you can compare. Well, actually, we see it coming to the UK now. We've just released that in Manchester Airport with UK Border Force. So there's to the adoption aspect. For the rest of Europe with ES, that's going to take a bit more time. Okay. But then the second part is interoperability, which means that your digital identity token, for instance, which you are using. Okay, let me take the example of somebody taking on a flight in Heathrow, moving to Japan. We are working on a pilot at the moment to have one identity credential in Heathrow used to connect, well, I can't remember where it is. I think it's in Hong Kong, and then a third one in Japan. And this interoperability comes by design, because you cannot possibly imagine than one single identity provider, whether it is the US identity, the DigiYatra identity, would then be adopted by the rest of the world. So they need to talk to each other. This interoperability is absolutely critical.
And don't you think, Jan, that with the DTC, the ICAO DTC and the one ID of IATA,
That's the one.
Once we adopt this, we will have really your digital identity. So
that's
there's
exactly
a lot of work across the world to have one identity that goes across all borders.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question about the vertiport and eVTOL operation and the disruption on integration.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's the next thing. I mean, we're talking about these databases, you know, and all the AI, you know, we use to mine these databases and get the information we need quickly. What happens? What if there's a disruption? What are we going to do? Are there? Does any of the panelists think is there going to be some type of distributed intelligence so that if we lose a system, another system can still function and you know maintain the passenger experience?
Are you asking about resilience or disruption handling, or?
I guess you could say, yeah, like if the link's disrupted, I mean, what would happen? You know, and this is kind of an issue. It's not just with airports; it's pretty much with everything. You know, when we rely so much on certain systems, and if those systems have made our life so much easier, when those systems aren't available, how do we function? Do we go back to the old, you know, scan the ticket, let me see your passport, or what are we going to do?
You want me to jump on this one? No, go ahead, Jed.
Go ahead. I wanted to say when we started the technology at airports at the beginning, during the queue time, they were always telling the airport, you need to keep the manual system on your backup because at any point of time, you never know. System can, for any reason, crash, and you should be able to operate. Now that we are going into all these cloud application, and we have to accept that today is by far much more secured, much more stable than it used to be before. But there is always a plan B for the airport in case anything can fall down. So Azure a few weeks back, it was down. So few days even. So yes, anything can go down. We cannot say there is system that cannot go down. And we should be ready always for a backup plan, which will be painful, which will not give all the facilities, but it should be there. Percentage of use will be minimum. Jan?
So yeah, absolutely. You know, I think we are thinking about the same event, huh? And actually I also ran into Thomas this morning, so the CEO of Heathrow, and we were discussing how, so a month ago now, they had a cyber attack. So it's none of the IT provider on the panel here, so we can discuss it without naming, but a cybersecurity, which again can happen to anyone. And yes. I think saying the opposite is kidding yourself. But then it took weeks to get back into order, weeks. Yeah. And the reason it's because it was an on-prem system. If I take by opposition the CrowdStrike issue, which happened now a longer time ago, but we patched it on our servers. It was a matter of hours. It was done. The customers didn't even realize. We also have a few legacy customers still on-prem, and the poor had to suffer for hours, even I think in some cases probably more than a day, because we had to run around with USB stick, patching local hardware at the airport. So I think the cloud discussion, and saying cloud is not safe, then you can have, in-country cloud hosting and stuff like that, which is another matter, which is more about data privacy, yes. Regionalization. But I think from the system, cyber security of the system, what is provided as an infrastructure by Azure, Google, Amazon, is to a level which is higher than what an on-prem server can manage in an airport, in an airline, in a hotel.
Yeah. Well, okay, Georgie, you're talking about all these systems. You're more, like I said, back of house, and X-ray systems and things like that. I mean, how reliable are these systems, and how do they need, the interaction between the cloud? How does that affect your systems normally?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Also, by the way, it's related to the question about data again, who owns it, etc., etc. The systems and the AI models need to be reliable. That's out of the question. Now, here's the chicken and egg question. Now, in order to be reliable, they do need the data from which to learn. And now the question is, not so much who owns the data, but can AI access the data in a way that is secure and in a way that the model has to be built. So the data has to go somehow to the model, but also the data should not be shared arbitrarily with the third parties, for example. Well, there is, I mean, a lot of solutions. One of them, as Jan mentioned, maybe use the centralized Google, etc., or Amazon solutions. Well, some clients that we have, they prefer to have, by the way, servers database in Europe only, etc. So maybe data that is based in US and in Europe cannot be shared to the AI models so easily. And of course, then reliability drops. But one solution that is available in the medical world for some time, and I was part of implementing such in 3 countries in Europe, that maybe will come to the airports world, is called the federated learning, which means the data is not centralized at all in one place. The data stays where it is, and then there is an AI engine that is like working on these edge devices, so-called, so that the data stays where it is. At the place of the data, there is a small AI engine, and these AI engines talk to each other, and then in the end, they make a model based on all data in a privacy-preserving way without centralizing the data. So that's a very major breakthrough already used in hospitals. And this, I think, could come at some point, especially when you think about security in terms of computer vision models. So we have a set of, let's say, images, one airport, another airport, third airport. Well, in order to distinguish some features and to become better, these computer vision models, they have somehow to have access to such data. So that is one possible solution.
So basically, we're talking distributed AI systems that talk to each other. They don't actually have the data. They can just ask another AI about the data.
They, by the way, Google, before it was called distributed learning, and in 2014, Google came up with such a system, and they called it federated learning, but they just renamed it, not to confuse with some parallel computing distributing systems. And this federated learning, that is originally, of course, distributed, works in this way. It even works on your phones. So when you type some SMS, you have a suggested word, and this suggested word, it comes from a model, but the model does not have access to thousands or millions or billions of SMSs, right? How come it works? Well, in your terms and conditions in your phone, you see that there is an the data from your SMS can be used in this federated network in order to make predictions for a next word on another let's say even a phone, without ever sharing your next word with anybody else. So that's what's happening.
So that the privacy issues that we have, I mean, many of the things that we've been talking about that make the passenger experience so seamless, I mean, you've given up a lot of your privacy, you know, to the AI world. What you're saying is your privacy can still be ensured because we're really not sharing your data. We're just basically asking questions.
So sort of. Of course, there are extremely many caveats, but at least it's not like some open data. This is, in theory, extremely privacy preserving way. Of course, there are ways to break it, but for the moment, it is a pretty safe option.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
But I think there is some questions to be addressed.
Yeah. Let's. I mean, all the panelists, we can see the questions. Does anybody want to?
I will jump a little bit on, and I'll give it to Jan. Regarding the question about the VTOL and the UAM in general, the start of this technology was not so successful now at the first trial that was in Paris during the Olympic, but we said that this is coming, And if you look at the vision of Saudi vision, Dubai vision, all the NEOM will be based on a lot of VTOL, eVTOL transportation. So it's going to come. It's going to be a part of the ecosystem, and there will be some. It will disturb the airport operation a little bit, in a meaning that there is a special arrangement that has to be done to it. It was supposed to come much quicker than it is now, but a lot of technologies like this, but
Yeah.
it is still on the roadmap. It's still in the future, and we can see a lot of future for the UAM. And if you see all these visions that we spoke about for the Gulf countries, the UAM and this kind of transportation, we did not speak about the multimodal way. We don't have time, but this is an important factor going to play. So yes, it will be there. Very quick on the last point, then I give you, Jan, to speak about your very important question, because we speak about the future of airports, like everything is rosy and beautiful, and you go, and then we have a lot of pain still today at airports. Visa is a pain. And if your biometric or your self check-in does not read the visa for your destination, you still have to show your visa somewhere. So it is something that we are working closely on it now in CETA, and I'm sure all the vendors are working, addressing the customs and some legacy things. The problem in this ecosystem is that a lot of airports still have the legacy, because there is so many stakeholders, so many players. If immigration, they want to keep the departure card, for example, they want to keep the arrival card, they will keep it.
Yeah.
So it's a complete ecosystem. What we are showing today, speaking about, is really what we like to be, and technology will allow this. But for sure, you will have a lot of troubles. You wanted to speak about airport, Jan?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was almost going to put it in the introduction, but I think the airport of the future is also an airport where a lot less is happening.
Yes.
And a lot of the administrative tasks are taken off airports. And by the way, in administrative tasks, I could even mention baggage. Checked in luggage. I mean, let's give them to FedEx and Amazon of this world and manage it just like logistics. Without talking about baggage, let me give you very quickly, because we're running out of time, but I had a few years back a discussion with a customer of ours who said, come on, Jan, bring us the self-service part, bring us the kiosk and the automated backdrops and the gates and so on. We were not talking biometrics. We were just talking pure self-service automation in order to get better throughput, less queues and so on. And I said, look, I cannot. It's pointless. 99% of your passengers actually need to meet an agent face-to-face to show a piece of paper. So talk to your hub carrier, who happens also to be an Amadeus customer. And what we sold to that customer is document verification, which is passport check, visa check through the airline self-service that you do, at home on your sofa, so that when you get to the airport, you don't need to see the agent. And then the automation can happen. And then most of your volume of passengers can go through the self-service, the gates, and that also leaves your staff able to manage, the family with young kids or the elderlies, let's say the more exceptional cases or complex cases, in a more also human manner. So clearly, and that goes back a little bit to a point which I think matters a lot, which is these technologies require adoption from all of the stakeholders. Yes. And the traveler adoption, from my perspective, is very much led by the airline. So if the airline brings in this off-airport document verification, passport control, airline biometric enrollment within the check-in flow, then at the airport, you can really deploy the right technology to make it seamless, or as seamless as it gets. I think that was a great question.
I adding one point here, I may close with it, because also we speak about airport as data, as API, in the meaning that the airport does not have to be practically at the airport. So the future will be also for distributed airports. All what you are doing at the terminal now, from check-in to luggage to everything, all the terminal functions can be done remotely. So you can have terminals distributed And the airport will be the place when you come. It's a huge shopping mall. You board the plane. You can do your check-in, your baggage. Everything can be done remotely. It exists today, and there is a lot of services off airport that they go home, not necessarily, but it can be from home or from a lot of others. So we look into the distributed airport, where the airport will go beyond the limitation of the physical airport where it is now. And technology will allow this easily. It will allow as well the remote operation of multi-airports. Even your control tower doesn't have to be at the airport. So you can have a remote digital control tower that can control so many small airports around. And all this will reduce. We're looking into autonomous airport, into autonomous vehicles at the airport. So a lot of things in the technology that we didn't have time to speak about it now. We were concentrating more on the passenger flow, but we can go really beyond, where we see the technology changing the whole ecosystem and the way people travel.
Yes, yeah. I mean, certainly, speaking as a million miler and an international traveler, I've got a dozen visas, and I never know when I try to check in and maybe get my boarding pass remotely. Many times, nope, I have to go show them a visa at the airport to get my boarding pass, and other times I put my passport information in, and boom, I get boarding pass. And it's just so inconsistent that it would be really for the traveler, the heavy duty traveler. If these systems start getting linked together, it would just make life so much easier. And as Jan mentioned, now you can address the exceptions rather than, the traveler who's just walking through the airport and getting on a plane,
Yes.
Well, I think we're very close to our time. Unless there's something we want to address, we need to pretty much wrap it up now. So any final thoughts from anybody? Jihad, you want to say anything?
Yeah. I was reading the question. In fact, it's a very large topic, and especially that if we want to speak about the future of travel, when the future will be, the reliance on the infrastructure, on the communication, on the technology in general. But like we said, everything starts with vision. And now we are not speaking on the vision. What we describe now are technologies existing, but for sure the future will be fueled by technology, and we are going to have very smooth travel in the future, even if we are struggling a little bit now.
Yeah. Well, things need to take a step back sometimes to take a step forward. Jan, you have any final thoughts?
No, I think we've covered quite a lot. And I would say there's been already lots of progress when you really start seeing some of these most innovative customers. We were talking about the corridor. I mean, a few weeks ago, we did a pilgrimage from the Hajj arrival in Indonesia. And here you're talking about dozens and dozens of passengers, fair enough, low risk passengers, but essentially going through border in a corridor. So some of these things are happening now, but we are going towards a simpler travel. That's a certainty. That's a certainty.
Georgie?
I hope the AI can make travel easy, not only from operational point of view, also for the travelers. I like very much the idea of Jihad that the airport can be actually distributed and go outside the borders of the physical airport. That's maybe idea for the future. And let's hope that one technology does not, one solution of a technological problem does not create two technological problems that are unforeseen. We always have to be aware of that.
Yeah, the law of unintended consequences. So we're going to have to wrap it up. And we appreciate, all the panelists and the good questions that were coming in on the chat. I'm sorry that we can't address all of them. I'm going to make a little pitch, for the airport forum. We have the global forum coming up here in Riyadh near the end of December. All of our panelists, I'm sure, will be there. I myself will. We look forward to seeing everybody there. And hopefully this is informative, and we'd appreciate your feedback as part of the webinar, so these things can get improved and address the issues that the watcher, for lack of a better term, we can address those kind of things and keep this, informative and lively and get this information out to the people who need it. So with that, we bid you adieu.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.